Significant progress has been made in protecting hundreds of thousands Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh since they fled persecution in Burma. But lives will once again be at risk if funding is not urgently secured. United Nations officials have said on the eve of the first anniversary of a military crackdown that forced them to flee their country. Nearly 800,000 Rohingyas have been displaced from Arakan since the military began a crackdown on militants last August. Most have crossed the border into Bangladesh, joining the 200,000 refugees already there. Deputy Director General of Emergency Preparedness and Response for the UN World Health Organization, Peter Salama, told journalists in Geneva that deadly disease outbreaks had been held at bay in Bangladesh's Cox's Bazar despite all the conditions being in place for a massive epidemic. Outbreaks of measles, diphtheria, polio, cholera, and rubella have been contained, he said. Nothing that thousands of lives had been saved so far, thanks to the joint efforts of the Bangladesh government, WHO, and partners. We need to sustain the vigilance for early warnings of infectious diseases, Salama said. That is still a major risk due to the environmental issues, the poor sanitation, the massive overcrowding, the way these people are being housed, and we need to maintain our ability to scale up outbreak response as required. His call to scale up help was echoed in Geneva by IOM and UN Migration Agency spokesperson Joel Millman. This was the fastest growing refugee crisis in the world, and the challenges have been immense, he said, highlighting comments by the agency's Chief of Mission of Bangladesh, Georgi Jigauri. Countless lives have been saved thanks to the generosity of the government of Bangladesh, the local community and donors, and the hard work of all those involved in the humanitarian response. But we now face the very real threat that if more funding is not urgently secured, lives will once again be at risk. 1 year on from the exodus sparked by a military operation likened to ethnic cleansing by UN Human Rights Chief Zaid Ra'ad Al Hussein, more than 720,000 Rohingya people have arrived in Cox's Bazar in southern Bangladesh. They have joined an estimated 200,000 Rohingya refugees who were previously displaced. One of the camps, Kutupalong, shelters more than 600,000 refugees, making it the largest and most densely populated refugee settlement in the world, according to the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees. In addition to the challenge of providing people's basic needs, shelter, water and sanitation and healthcare, the agency has carried out huge engineering work to reduce the risk of landslides and flooding. This also involved mobilizing and training hundreds of refugee volunteers to serve as first responders in the event of a natural disaster, although the camps have largely withstood the adverse weather. Another key area of concern is the health of some 60,000 pregnant Rohingya women in the camps. Many of them suffered gender-based violence either prior or during the course of their flight from Burma. WHO's Salama said, adding that only 1/5 of them will give birth in a suitable healthcare facility. Partner agency UNHCR also underlined the calls for the international community to step up support for the Rohingyas who are stateless and unable to return to Burma. This is despite the UN's signing of an official memorandum of understanding with the government of Burma in June to help establish conditions conducive for the safe, dignified and sustainable repatriation of the Rohingyas. More than a dozen Rohingya refugees pack a living room inside a Kitchener, Ontario home Sunday morning, eagerly watching the Bangladeshi general election results trickle in. Arguably, there is no demographic with more the line in this election than the Rohingya people. It is very important for us because our families live there. Our brothers and sisters live there, said Rohingya refugee Saifullah Muhammad. What will be the future of Rohingyas after elections? For their families back home, Muhammad said, the election will likely determine how the country decides to treat its nearly 1 million Rohingya visitors. We fear the Rohingyas will be forced back after the elections, said Muhammad. That is our main concern. If that is happening, then it will be a nightmare for the Rohingyas in Bangladesh. Our families living in Bangladesh, they're worried, always worried. They don't know what will happen after the elections. If they have to send my family back to Myanmar, where it's hell, then we will just break down into pieces, said Farid Ullah, another Rohingya refugee in Kitchener. Nearly 500 Canadian Rohingyas refugees living in Kitchener, with many, if not all, having family who remain at the refugee camps in Bangladesh. In August 2017, Burmese military forces and Buddhist extremists began attacks on the Rohingyas in the northern west region of the country. Since then, approximately 700,000 Rohingyas have fled to neighboring Bangladesh for refugee, where they have set up camps at Cox's Bazar and its surrounding areas. But there has always been opposition to the Rohingyas in Bangladesh. In late October, Bangladesh attempted to begin repatriation of the Rohingya Muslims refugees, but move received backlash from the international aid groups and the UN Refugee Agency. The deadline for the repatriation came and went in November, with none of the listed refugees agreeing to go back to Burma. Bangladesh then announced it would stall any repatriation and relocation programs until after the election. It's really a bad situation, said Bob Rae, Canada's special envoy to Myanmar. They're interested in continuing to work on how to get back to Myanmar.